The Toco-Toucan. Thermoregulation in the Toco-Toucan. Thermoregulation. Thermo means temperature, hence regulating temperature in the Toco-Toucan. Firstly, I would like to establish that thermoregulation is a homeostatic feedback mechanism, which means that thermoregulation is the internal control processes and mechanisms which an organism uses to maintain a stable internal temperature, despite fluctuations in the temperature of the external environment. Homeostasis is a stable internal environment coordinated by the nervous and endocrine systems. The animal which I have chosen to focus my investigation on is the Toco-Toucan. This bird typically lives in the semi-arid areas of Brazil, called cerrados, where ambient temperatures vary substantially. Temperatures are very high during the day, however drop significantly at night. The reason that I have chosen to study this bird species is because the Toco-Toucan is an endotherm which uses multiple processes and mechanisms of thermoregulation in order to maintain a stable internal temperature. It is important for a homeotherm to maintain its body temperature at a constant level by its metabolic activity and other internal control processes and mechanisms, as daily and annual changes in temperature commonly lead to shifts from one temporal niche to another. It is crucial for thermoregulation to occur in the Toco-Toucan, as if it didn't occur, the internal temperature of the bird is at the mercy of its fluctuating environment. If absent, this could mean that during the day, at high environmental temperatures, the Toco-Toucan may go into hypothermia, which may be fatal, and during the night, at low environmental temperatures, it might go into hypothermia and die. Thus, it is crucial for the Toco-Toucan to maintain a stable internal environment. But how do Toco-Toucans thermoregulate? The Toco-Toucans have adaptively evolved a set of physiological and behavioral mechanisms enabling them to regulate internal temperature in order to cope with the changing external environment. Firstly, how is the change in temperature even detected? When the surrounding temperature decreases at night or increases during the day, and becomes unsuitable, the Toco-Toucan is able to detect this change and has evolutionarily adapted to cope with this recurring challenge of a drastically changing external environmental temperature. When ambient temperatures drop below the comfort zone, the thermoneutral zone, or the lower critical temperature, heat production must increase or heat loss must decrease. This temperature change is detected through the toucan's nerve cells called thermoreceptors, which, when stimulated, send electrical impulses to the bird's brain, in particular to the hypothalamus, mainly to the preoptic and anterior hypothalamic nuclei of the hypothalamus. As you can see on the screen, the preoptic region. This is the preoptic region of the nuclei. Thermoreceptors are specialized sensory neurons that can detect small changes in heat. They are made of heat-sensing fibers which increase their action potential discharge rate in response to a changing body temperature. They are connected to the nervous system of the toucan, allowing the impulses to travel up the spinal cord of the bird and into the brain, reaching the control center of thermoregulation. The preoptic and anterior hypothalamic nuclei of the hypothalamus contains a large number of heat-sensitive neurons, as well as about a third as many cold-sensitive neurons. It is these neurons which are believed to function as temperature sensors for controlling body temperature in the Toco-Toucan and most other birds and mammals. When the hypothalamus receives information that the body temperature is undesirable, immediate reflex effects are evoked and begin to increase and decrease the temperature of the body. This is done in several ways, and as you can see here, heat production and heat loss mechanisms work together in order to maximize the efficiency of thermoregulation. This is the feedback loop for thermoregulation in the Toco-Toucan and could apply for many other birds and mammals. When the body temperature decreases, the thermoreceptors are stimulated. Cold-sensitive neurons send electrical impulses at a certain firing rate, which is sent to the hypothalamic preoptic area. This area serves as the thermostatic body temperature control center, which activates the warming mechanisms. These will include vasoconstriction to the bill in the Toco-Toucan, which reduces heat loss, as well as muscle contractions stimulated. This results in contraction to erect feathers and also cause shivering, which is increased heat production immediately. This increased heat production and these processes increase heat production and reduce heat loss, and therefore the body temperature increases and the thermostat shuts off the warming mechanisms. And when this happens, the body is essentially at optimal temperature. This is another diagram that I found. It's another feedback loop. It's a lot simpler, and it just shows that when the temperature increases, the hypothalamus receives the information, and the mechanisms that lower temperature are evoked, and the body temperature decreases and goes back to normal levels, and vice versa when too cold. The toucan's bill is a heat dissipating mechanism, which works by altering blood flow to the bill surface, allowing the toucan to conserve body heat, or also use its beak to act as a carefully regulated heat radiator in order to cool down. It is a significant area for heat exchange. It makes up between 30 to 40% of the entire surface area of the toucan's body. Relative to its size, it is said to be one of the largest thermal windows in the animal kingdom. It could account for as little as 25% to as much as 400% of resting heat production in adult toucans. During exercise, i.e. flying, and under high ambient temperatures, blood flows to the highly vascularized bill, and excess heat is dissipated to the environment. At low ambient temperatures, vasoconstriction is observed and body heat is retained. In a recent finding by Tattersall and colleagues in 2009 using infrared cameras, they were able to show that the Toco-Toucan regulates heat distribution by modifying blood flow. As you can see here in this video, during a 2-hour period, the toucan is able to warm up its bill by more than 10 degrees Celsius from its core body temperature and more than 15 degrees Celsius from the surrounding environmental temperatures. It then tucks its beak under its wing and uses it as a controllable heat radiator to warm up and keep warm during the cold nights. The vascular smooth muscles in the walls of the vessels are able to contract and dilate the vessels to control blood flow into the beak. These muscles contain adrenal receptors, which activate the muscle contractions by detecting the presence of the norepinephrine hormone released from the adrenal glands. When the temperature falls, the hypothalamus sends electrical pulses which activate the adrenal glands, causing them to secrete this hormone into the bloodstream. The hormone then travels up until it reaches the adrenal receptors and vascular muscles, causing them to respond and contract. When the temperature of the preoptic area increases, the hypothalamus sends a signal to the adrenal glands to release the norepinephrine hormone, which travels in the blood all the way up to the bill, where it causes the opening of blood vessels to its bill, allowing more blood flow into its uninsulated bill, where excess heat energy can easily radiate away from its overheating body. In addition, body heat production mechanisms are inhibited and reduced as much as possible. The bill acts as a thermal radiator, allowing the toucan to cool down. This is an immediate response which allows the body to lose the excess heat and thereby helping the toucan return its body temperature to optimal levels. The hypothalamic preoptic area has the capability to serve as a thermostatic body temperature control center. The thermoreceptors of the hypothalamus, the central thermoreceptors, are extremely powerful in controlling body temperature. However, thermoreceptors in other parts of the body, such as the skin, the peripheral thermoreceptors, also play important roles in thermoregulations, as they also send electrical impulses to the hypothalamus via hot and cold temperature-sensitive neurons. This homeostatic feedback system may be interrupted by a syndrome called Waterhouse-Friderichsen syndrome. This syndrome causes the adrenal glands to bleed and in many cases fail, and is most often caused by the meningococcal bacteria, which Toco-Toucans can contract. This bacteria releases toxins which travel through the bloodstream and reach the adrenal glands, causing the breakdown of the walls of the blood vessels of the adrenal gland, which subsequently results in bleeding. This is generally followed by the organ failure, as the body detects the glands as harmful to the internal systems. The shutdown of the adrenal gland is pursued. The failure of this organ means that the norepinephrine hormone can no longer be secreted into the bloodstream, and thus cannot be sent to the adrenal receptors in the bill, and therefore the toucan cannot vasoconstrict the blood supply to its beak. This means that the blood will continue to flow through the vascular system of the bill, even when very cold, and as it is uninsulated and very close to the surface, it will continue to lose heat to the surrounding environment. This large amount of unnecessary heat loss through the beak may cause the Toco-Toucan to get undesirably cold, which will result in hypothermia, followed by the death of the individual. The effect on the feedback loop that this syndrome has on the feedback loop is that it shuts down the effector, which is the adrenal glands. So, although everything else in the system still functions, when the adrenal gland receives the information and is required to secrete the hormone, it is unable to do so. The response output mechanism still functions. However, it no longer has the connection with the rest of the system loop, hence the brain. Therefore, the toucan can no longer control the feedback system and thus unable to thermoregulate efficiently. The adaptive advantage of being able to thermoregulate is that this homeostatic feedback mechanism is crucial, as most chemical reactions that occur in the body, like other mammals and birds, are catalyzed by proteins which function best at optimal temperatures. When the temperature is too high, the bonds of the proteins break, they denature, and become dysfunctional. When the temperature is too low, the proteins cannot function either, or function very slowly. Thus, by maintaining a constant, suitable temperature, the Toco-Toucan allows the proteins in its body to perform at maximum efficiency. This also means that the Toco-Toucan has an adaptive advantage over other poiculotherms, as temperature maintenance is important for the rate of all chemical reactions, hence body processes, and by functioning at maximum efficiency, the Toco-Toucan is able to be advantageous over other organisms occupying the same niche. Another adaptive advantage of thermoregulation is that it allows the Toco-Toucan to be able to adapt to a great diversity of climates. High temperatures pose serious concerns and stress on the toucan's body, increasing the possibility of injury or even death. Therefore, by maintaining optimal temperature, the Toco-Toucan reduces the risk of injuries and stress, which allow it to withhold its position in its ecosystem successfully. Please see the Milestone 1 script for further detail or more depth into what I have discussed, and other behavioral physiological mechanisms which are used to produce heat and aid in heat loss in the Toco-Toucan. Thank you.